Satoru Gojo was known as the
Anymore,
strongest
it's
sorcerer
just that the
alive,
world feels
but the more I think about
so
Gojo,
wonderful
the
right
less I
now.
think his story was actually about strength. Because strength was the obvious part. Everyone knew Gojo was strong. His enemies knew it, his students knew it, heck, the entire Jujutsu world knew it. But that's what makes him interesting. Because Gojo didn't live like someone trying to prove he was powerful. He lived like someone trying to figure out what the power was supposed to be. And have you ever noticed how true
Throughout
that
heaven
is?
and earth,
The strongest man in the world
I
became
alone
a teacher.
am the honored one.
Not a king, not a ruler, a teacher. And that changes everything. This is Blessed Anime Hot Takes, and today we're breaking down why Gojo's power was never about strength, but the future he tried to create with it. Gojo's appeal was easy to understand. He was fun to watch because he felt untouchable. When Gojo entered the situation immediately changed. The tension changed, not because the danger disappeared, but because Gojo never moved that the danger ever existed. He could joke in the middle of chaos, talk down to his enemies who should have been terrifying, turn a serious fight into something that felt almost unfair. That was the fantasy. A person so capable that the world couldn't corner him. And I think that's why we love him so much. Because capability is one of the deepest fantasies there is. The idea of being useful, needed, respected, valued. The idea that when something goes wrong, you're not helpless. You're the one people can rely upon. Gojo represented that at the highest level. He was the endpoint of capability. The person who could do what nobody else could. But Jujutsu Kaisen didn't let that fantasy stay simple. Because Gojo showed something most strongest character stories avoid. Being needed is not the same as being known. And being relied on is not the same as being loved. That was the contradiction of Satoru Gojo. His power made him undeniable, but it also made him distant. And that creates a very specific kind of loneliness. Because he wasn't ignored, he wasn't unwanted, he was needed constantly, but often for what he could do, not for who he was. That's why Gojo becomes more than just cool, or unforgettable, but also uncomfortable. Because he reflects something so real to many of us. A world where your value can feel tied to your utility. Where people respect you only when you perform, praise you for what you provide, and need you only when you're useful. But don't always know what to do with you when you're simply human. And maybe that's why the title of the strongest can be so heavy. It gave Gojo value, but it also consumed his identity. Because how do you remain yourself? Everyone keeps turning you into what they need you to be. That's why teaching mattered. Because if Gojo only cared about strength, his life would have been so much simpler. He could have stayed at the top, beaten whoever challenged him, let the world keep depending on him. But Gojo wanted something beyond the strongest. He wanted young sorcerers to stop being thrown away. He wanted students to stop being sacrificed just because they were useful. He didn't want the next generation to inherit the same broken system. And in that way, Gojo carried the legacy of his one true friend, Geto. Not his hatred, but his love for sorcerers. That's the part that makes Gojo's role as a teacher feel different. He wasn't just training strong soldiers. He wasn't just training strong students. He was also protecting young sorcerers from a world that threatened to treat them like tools. Because Gojo knew what it meant to be useful. Maybe too well. He knew what it meant to have the world look at you for your ability before your humanity. So he tried to create something different. And that's why Gojo's power was never just strength. It was influence. But not in a cheap way. Not in control or manipulation. Influence in the sense that your existence reaches beyond yourself. That what you are and what you teach continues through the people who matter to you. That's what Gojo wanted. To make his power mean something. To make his existence matter to the people who matter to him the most. Because power without purpose is empty. To wield power with nothing to protect and no future to build is no different from being powerless. He had almost unlimited strength, but his deepest desire was something strength alone couldn't guarantee. He wanted his strength to survive, to grow, to surpass him, to no longer need him. And maybe then he would be loved for who he is and not what he could do. Because maybe the greatest teacher isn't the one who stays above everyone forever. It's the one who creates people strong enough to stand even when he's gone. So, Gojo's power was never about strength. Strength only made him leader, but it's through influence that gave him a chance to be remembered for more than just what he was, but instead who he was. So now I'll ask you, when you think of Gojo's legacy, what do you see? Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. Until then, stay blessed.